Support me and be on my wall of supporters. Thank you, my nerd. You need to listen to the board of truth, my dear nerds. Life is unfair, and this is especially valid when it comes to handhelds. We can have two seemingly identical looking handhelds. Listen to the board of truth, by the way, and yet they can be as different as night and day. The question though is, are these two different like night and day? Because they are so closely related that it's absolutely amazing to just look at them side by side. You know, I always thought that the experience matters more than the actual performance. This challenges that theory of mine. These two handhelds, you know, I assume, my dear nerds, I'm not gonna offend your intelligence, you know what these are. The RG556, aka the handheld which was crowned the most ergonomic handheld on the planet. Well, I assume on the planet. I haven't tested all handhelds on the planet. And its direct successor, the beautiful, somewhat smudgy RG557, which I personally really like. Now, these two have seemingly a lot of things in common, but if you look like society more than skin deep, just look at its insides. Don't look at people's insides. If we look more than skin deep here, we would see that components wise, there's a ton of differences. First of all, the RG557 has the Dimensity 9300. Whoops, my bad. What I actually meant to say was the Dimensity 8300, not the 9300. This is what happens when you try to memorize specifications in your head instead of cheating like a normal person and looking at specs sheet. What sets the RG557 apart is 50% more RAM, 12 gigs versus 8 gigs here, and double the storage, 256 gigs of internal storage instead of the 128 on the RG556. However, and this is very important, the storage itself is actually very fast as well, meaning that we have UFS 4 speeds when it comes to the storage itself versus UFS 2.2 on this other one. The RG557 also slashes when it comes to PS2 and overall emulation because it has a GPU that's more than double the performance of the RG556. And the CPU is a bit powerful as well, but not as dramatic, roughly by 30%. But overall, what this means is that even though they look the same and they have more or less the same exact specifications, except for the sticks, I'm gonna tackle this hot potato in a second, but when you look at them, people who might not watch this video and might not subscribe might confuse them for being just different colorways or very similar. You couldn't be more wrong. Like I said, we need to look on the inside of these things, and they are immensely different. Now, I've had the RG557 for a while now, and I've configured it. I've installed all my ROMs, which I legally backed up and acquired, of course, and I'm enjoying this one to bits. It's really a handheld that can emulate almost everything that I throw at it. I'm saying almost because, of course, our main problem would be that handheld from that Japanese plumber company, which we shouldn't talk about, because we need a custom GPU driver there, which we don't have. So, you know, in this life we can't have it all, my dear nerds. But coming back to these handhelds, the one thing that is a saving grace for the RG557 for me is the fact that this finally has fast charging. The problem with the RG556, this was a pain in the neck when it came to charging. It couldn't do almost any good fast charging as well. Whereas the RG557 supports up to 27 watts of fast charging. Now, the big controversy, if we can call it that, about the RG557 are the sticks. A lot of people didn't like these sticks because they are small, but they are ultra sensitive, as in accurate, not bad sensitive. And I personally love them. I aspire to the very small camp of people that really don't think larger sticks mean good sticks. And this is a very good option, a very good source of proof that small sticks can perform beautifully. They are really, I'm not saying they have a good range of motion, but for the range of motion that they have, they are immensely accurate. It's actually kind of crazy because you have to fine-tune your brain a bit to expect that extra accuracy. Every, let's say, fifth of a millimeter is registered by these sticks. I don't feel any perceivable dead zone here. I don't feel that these sticks fail in any way. Whereas the RG556 also had a stick controversy of its own. By the way, I formatted this because I'm kind of preparing a video with Gamma OS on the RG556, so I had to nuke all my installations that I had on this thing. By the way, Gamma, add me on Discord. I want us to be friends. We're gonna make beautiful videos together. It's gonna be one of the best trade deals on the planet. Add me on Discord. But coming back to our things here, the problem with the sticks on the RG556 is that they are prone to 8-way cardinal snapping, meaning that you don't have this fluid circular motion that you have on the RG557. I would show you this in more detail, but unfortunately, just look at this precision. Do you see? On the RG557, we really have good sticks. Do not believe otherwise. However, and this is very important to keep into account, that on the RG556 we just can't see this through the test app. There's a different test app here, so just something to keep in mind. The community does know though that these sticks have 8-way cardinal snapping. All is not lost though, because Gamma OS is now available on the Unisoc 820 handhelds like this one, and that supposedly fixes the cardinal snapping on the RG556. This doesn't solve the performance problem. You can do easily you can do 2.5x PS2 on the RG557, but you can barely do 1.5x stable on most games on the RG556, meaning that a lot of games will not be as accurate. They will not be as good looking. Internal resolution means extra detail, and the RG557 simply gives a better experience overall. Now, the main difference for these two, for most people, will be price. The RG557 goes around $250. It's uncomfortably close to Odin 2 Portal territory for the base version, I mean, while the RG556 goes at around $150. So we're talking about a solid $100 difference between the two. Now, I'm not gonna tell you, go spend money, like, go throw your money away, buy a million handhelds and upgrade after this model. The RG557 gets superseded by a new one. I'm not gonna tell you all of that. However, I do think these two handhelds are at the uncomfortable limit between what's usable and what is not. Let me explain. You see, the whole point of having a 16:9 handheld like this is PSP and PlayStation 2 because of the widescreen hacks. Otherwise, PS2 would have been a 4:3 console that we would have to emulate. Thankfully, because of those widescreen patches, we can use basically any kind of aspect ratio for PS2. And PS2 looks beautiful on a widescreen like this. Now, the problem is that the RG556 simply doesn't have enough performance for reliable PS2. Of course, if you tweak stuff, you might get to run your favorite games. I can run the Legacy of Kain Defiance on the RG556 very easily. Now, this is not guaranteed, however, and I've always said that we need a performance headroom to not have to tinker. Tinkering is the devil's hug, okay? It's horrible. Nobody should want to tinker after 35. Yeah, I said it. Contradict me in the comment section if you want, but tinkering is for younger people. I used to tinker with Ubuntu, with various Linux distributions. I used to install custom ROMs back in my early 20s and even earlier than that. Of course, I'm still gonna install a custom ROM because I want to check out Gamma OS for the RG556. Actually, for the rest of the Unisoc T820 handhelds, I'm gonna install Gamma OS on all of them. So overall, I plead to you, my dear nerds, try to figure out what are your needs. Do you need that more than double GPU power? Then get the RG557. If you need something that scrapes by for PS2 and does PSP good, and also just a bit of Nintendo Switch, don't think crazy stuff, think Broforce and other 2D types of games like that, then you can go for the RG556. Now, honestly, the sticks on the RG556, they never bothered me, even though they cardinal snap. I don't really care about that. I'm gonna tell you an uncomfortable truth. People in our beloved retro emulation community whine a lot, and I can feel the pitchforks being lit up right now. But most people don't care about that. Most people, they just want to play, and this is the kind reminder that I have to do, that we grew up with some very trash sticks on controllers. Do I need to remind you just how horrible the PS2 controller was? You should remember, you're old enough. Personally, if you have the expendable money to treat yourself to the RG557, I think this is a better solution. Not only, let me just get in the cool launcher here, not only when it comes to this comparison with the RG556, but I also think that the RG557 is better than the Retroid Pocket 5 as well. But then again, bias check, I'm kind of a performance freak. I want as much performance in any emulation handheld for the price that I can get. That's why I always thought that the Odin 2 was at a good price range if it was reduced, think Black Friday and all of that, solely because of that extra processing power. Between these two, there's no contest, in my opinion. Between the RP5 and the RG557, then that's where I think more people will be conflicted. But even in that comparison, which I'll make if you want, I think people should still probably go for the RG557. Anyway, this is a very quick video that I wanted to push out. I wanted to talk about this. This is more like a rant than anything else. If you want me to test games, more games in the future and talk less, then just let me know and I'll do that. But in the meantime, remember that I love you very much. This has not changed. It will never change. And we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye.